Hey everybody, you guys excited? Because I'm excited. How's everyone doing out there? Are we excited to learn a little bit about the lymphatic system? Did it go?
Yes, I am excited.
What an honor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, anytime I get a chance to talk about the lymphatics, you got me. I'm all in. I don't know if this dates anybody, but you ever seen that great movie, Jerry Maguire, with Tom Cruise?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "You had me at hello."
Yes.
So you got me at lymph. I'm in.
So I appreciate you taking time out. I think it's very important that I educate or take my platform to educate my followers on the lymphatic system.
Yeah.
I think you do a really great job of explaining it. I've watched tons of interviews and videos. So what I want to explain to you or get into before we start is that I feel like maybe it's all around, but mainly in the Latino or the African American community, they don't know too much about the lymphatic system. And I feel like all they know is like you get lymphatic massages after you have plastic surgery, that type of gig. Because that's actually how I got introduced to it. When I had my page, a lot of people would message me on lymphatic massages, and I was like, what is this? So I did my research, and then I got certified for lymphatic massages, the Vodder method. But then I went left. I found you, and then I found all these other things that I realized how important it is for the immune system, just overall bodily function. I think it became a little bit more prevalent during COVID because that word kept getting thrown around a lot, but people don't understand how important it is. They just heard you got to build work on your lymphatic system to build up your immune system. So I hope today you can clarify and help people understand like what a major part this is, especially with chronic diseases, autoimmune disorders. So everyone, this is Dr. Perry. So I'm excited that he's here. And I'm just a student today. So you take it away and do your thing.
Well, thank you very much. And well, here's the funny thing is that I usually teach courses that are 16 hours long. So it's going to be hard for me to pack it into a live, but I'm going to do my best because honestly, you could hit the start button and you might come back 3 days later and I'm still going to keep going.
Okay.
The most important thing that you mentioned there is, first of all, fantastic work that you're doing because I always tell people you can't change, Y-O-U, can't change anything until you become aware of it, right? Yeah. So stuff is always changing, but if you want to be empowered, it comes down to awareness. So just right now, by people saying, lymphatic system, what's that? You're already going to change so many lives, so they'll look more into it. And my story is kind of very similar to yours, is that I didn't really pay attention to this system, which we'll talk about really what it is in a moment, until I got really, really sick and hit rock bottom and had multiple autoimmune diseases. They call that polyautoimmunity, more than one, because you're allowed to have more than one problem. And nothing was helping the traditional route. And I got frustrated and I gave up hope and I was lost. And then somebody turned me onto the lymphatic system, and I said the same thing. Lymph what?
Yeah.
And because here's the thing, I'm in the healthcare industry, and I really didn't pay attention to it. So I can't fault normal, everyday people for not having an idea because they're healthcare professionals. Usually don't talk about it either. And you're right. Most of the time you only hear about this system is in a couple of cases. One, if you have cancer. Right? Especially around the breast tissue and axilla, because that's where a large gathering of what they call lymph nodes, which are basically small little waste stations that kill. So here's what the lymphatic system does. It's part of your immune system, and its job is to keep you alive and protect you, and it kills stuff that you don't want inside of you. Toxins. What type? Yes is the answer. From inside, from outside, bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungus, stuff that gets inside of you from outside. You name it. It even kills cancer cells until it gets too overrun and it can't kill them anymore. So it's really, really important. And these nodes gather around areas of your body that are supposed to move a lot. Operative word is supposed to. The shoulder joint is one. And when they get backed up or stagnated, and people say, why does that happen? I'm like, that's part of being a human being on this earth. It just happens because it gets overloaded. And the biggest example I can give to people to explain it is to try to show you something you're already familiar with. The lymphatic system, its job is to get rid of waste, just like your toilet does in your home. So you go to the toilet, you use the toilet, and if you flush it, hopefully it goes bye-bye. Because if it doesn't, it's nasty, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lymph node is. It's like a mini toilet. And you have between 600 and 700 in your body. And just like your toilet at home, if it gets backed up, the only way you're going to get rid of it is to do what? You have to go in and plunge the toilet or snake the toilet. Because if you keep flushing, it's just going to overflow. And it's going to be all over the place. So lymphatic work is where you go in and you use your hands and you manually plunge those small little toilets everywhere so you can get waste out. So it's part of your immune system, a significant part, a huge part, but it's also part of your cardiovascular system. That's something that many people forget because it dumps into the veins of your body, and your veins go into the heart. And something I say all the time is that no system in your body ever works alone. It never gets injured alone. It never heals alone. There's no such thing as an isolated injury in the body. Yeah. No such thing as isolated healing, and no such thing as an isolated lymphatic problem. If you've got a lymph problem in one place, you got it everywhere. So you have to check the whole system. The other time is when somebody has lymphedema, which means that a body part somewhere gets significantly more swollen than another body part. That usually happens in the ankles, the calves, the legs. That's the swelling on the airplane. When you go on the airplane, you come off and you have to wear compression socks and all sorts of things like that. It's just edema, swelling, inflammation. I don't care what word you give it. The words don't mean anything. It just means fluid, right? So you want to get that stuff out because if it stays inside of you, you cause more inflammation. So you get caught in this vicious cycle, right? And in relationship to the lymph, it's just knowing that you need to work on it, which I was not doing, right? And in relationship to the lymph nodes, you've got about 600 to 700 in your body, and lymph is located everywhere, but it's located primarily in 3 places. The skin is a big one. So that's why a lot of people who have skin issues, what type of skin issue? Yes, I don't care. You pick one. They're all the same. It's just a toxin issue, right? And you always need to check the lymphatic system, but not just around where the skin issue is. A lot of it happens in the face. So a lot of people get acne, things along the face, and that's because their lymph system is backed up in the head and neck, but also the lower body, particularly the abdomen. And so skin issues are a good indication that you might have a lymphatic system problem. The other place that it's located is in the neck up. So I'm going to throw a stat at you that's amazing. You've got 600 to 700 nodes in the body. 1/3 of that number is from here up.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, what does that tell you? That means that whatever you believe in the universe, God, Buddha, nature, whatever, knows that it's important real estate from the neck up because your brain sits in there. So you better be draining the head and the neck, but also the rest of the body. Otherwise, you're not going to have a healthy brain. Hard stop, period. Zero discussion on my part. Lymph issues are brain issues. No question.
Got it.
Right? So if you have neuroinflammation, if you have chronic pain, you need to work the lymphatic system. Now, the other place that it's located, the majority of the place that it's located is the gut, the abdomen. Right? And the gut compromises 70 to 80%, depending on the resources that you learn from, of your immune system. So your entire immune system strength, the majority of it, lives in your gut. So if you have a gut problem, you have a lymph problem. If you have a gut problem, you have an immune system problem. So anytime you have chronic inflammation, chronic pain, neurodegenerative disorders, you absolutely positively need to look at the gut, because gut issues also become brain issues at the same time. It goes both ways. And here's the thing why a lot of people get lost on this, because, you know, when people have pain, they usually treat the site of pain, right?
Yes.
Or when it travels all these other places, they do this thing called chasing pain.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know that name, Stop Chasing Pain, but that's what it means. It means treat pain, but don't just chase it and do stuff to where it hurts, because you're going to get lost and you're going to be in quicksand really fast. And that's what chronic pain is. Chronic pain is never just one thing or one site, ever. Right? And the lymph is always going to be involved with chronic pain in some way, shape, or form. I just need to see how much. So people say, how do you know you have a lymph problem? I'm like, that's easy. You're alive and you're breathing. That's how I know you got one. It just depends on how bad it is and what you do to take care of it on purpose.
Okay.
And that's my job, is to show them that, right? So the inflammation that gathers in your gut, that travels to your brain, that it can go everywhere in the body. And so when people come in to see me, very rarely, if ever, do they complain of pain in the abdomen. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you've got like colitis or ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome. If you already got that, what do I already know?
You have an issue with your lymph. Yeah.
I already know, right? But they don't feel pain there, but they say my back hurts, my knee hurts, my shoulder hurts, my head hurts. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to check the gathering place that's supposed to heal those. Because listen closely, inflammation is an immune system response, not a musculoskeletal one. Mm-hmm. So if you have swelling and inflammation, you need to look at the lymphatics, because that's the system that gets rid of it. Not the ice. The ice doesn't get rid of it. The ice is just designed to try to move fluid. It doesn't get it out. The lymphatic system does that. Same thing with heat. So you have to look for big blocks of fluid, what we call choke points. And a big one is the abdomen. So that's when you come on in and you back really hurts, and I lie you on my table and I push on your back and it hurts. But then I'm going to turn you over and then I press in your abdomen. And most people are wondering why I'm pressing in your abdomen. Okay? And then when I press there, they are completely blown away and startled about how much it hurts. And then here's my point. It's not supposed to hurt when I stick my finger in your abdomen. Yeah. And I will contend until the day I'm dead that that's the primary reason that your back's not getting better. Because you're not doing stuff to the primary area of the body that controls your ability to heal from pain or inflammation, whatever you want to call it. Now, the reason I found this work is because I had to rescue myself, because I damn near died. Medicine wasn't able to rescue me. They were trying to help me, but unfortunately they were hurting me because of how they look at the body in isolation. Can't do that when you have chronic disease. You can do that when you have a traumatic injury. So if my arm's hanging off, I'm not going to do lymph work for you. You're going to put your arm back on. Then you're going to see me after you put your arm back on for lymph work. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
So everything has its place. But I was not getting better at all. I was actually getting worse. And discovering this system helped me find the answer of why I was suffering for so long. And the way I look at it, okay, this is my viewpoint of why people struggle to get well, even though they take a lot of great things and do a lot of great things. And you ask yourself, why am I still sick? Why am I taking all these supplements? Why am I doing all these things that are supposed to help me, but they don't, or they do for a little while and it doesn't get better?
Yeah.
So I like to look at things really simply. Okay? So one of my mentors said this phrase: Chronic disease only occurs when you lose the ability to make new cells that work. I'm going to say that one more time. Chronic disease only occurs when you lose the ability to make new cells that work. Does that make sense? Because if you can make new cells that work, you wouldn't be sick.
Yes.
You're going to get sick, but you're supposed to get sick, but you're supposed to get better from being sick, and then should be stronger and more resilient because your immune system learned to fight stuff so you don't get sick as much. Okay? It's like lifting weights. You get stronger the more you do, the more you fight, the more resistance that you have. So then I thought to myself, okay, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. What the hell do you need to make a new cell that works? Well, it's pretty simple on one end. A cell needs nutrients, right? What kind of nutrients? Well, it needs a lot, but one, it needs oxygen, right? It needs glucose, and you need minerals. Those are three big ones. If you're missing any of those, you're already in big trouble. I don't care what you do on the back end, right? At all. And if your lymph system doesn't work well, there's no way in hell your oxygen levels are right or your mineral levels are right. Won't happen.
Yeah.
Because stress depletes minerals. Who has stress? Yes.
Everyone.
So everyone has a mineral issue. Okay. So you need nutrients, and then the cells that use the nutrients to do what? They go through their metabolic process, which is an energy process through the Krebs cycle, through mitochondria. I mean, you can read a book on biochemistry and explode your head when you want to go into it, right? So it uses it, but anytime you use energy, you create what? Waste.
Waste.
You're going to create metabolic waste in the cells, and in your brain, you're going to create neuron waste. So anytime neurons wire and fire, they make waste. So, and when you have waste, you need to get rid of it, right?
You need to get it out, yeah.
And the number one system to do that is your lymphatic system and your venous system, the veins of the body. Those are the two big ones. Because the lymph system dumps into the veins. So they go together. So then I thought to myself, that's interesting. Because I've been doing so much on the nutrient side, the supply side. I'm putting all this great stuff in, all these supplements. I'm working out. I'm training, which breaks down tissue, by the way, so you can make new ones.
Yes.
Training breaks down cells so you can make new ones. You're supposed to make new ones. Let me put the word supposed to in there, right? So when you train, you create a lot of metabolic waste. Okay? And every day that you're breathing, you create waste because you have billions of cells that die on purpose every day so you can make new ones. So here's an interesting fact. You're supposed to have a new gut lining every 3 days. So why the hell do you still suffer after a couple of years? Because you can't make a new gut lining, right? So then everybody's doing the nutrient side, but if you're putting good stuff in, good stuff in, good stuff in, even good stuff becomes toxic when it can't get out. You follow?
Yeah, because it's just sitting there.
So you can eat the most healthy food in the world. I can take an organic apple, and I'm like, that's great. That's better than a fake apple with pesticides. Yeah. But this, when it's broken down, if you can break it down, becomes toxic when it can't get out. So I read a phrase in osteopathic medicine that just, it was 3 words that I'm like, it can't be that simple, man. There's no way this can be that simple. And I thought to myself, it probably is. That's why everybody's overlooking it.
Yeah.
Because they want to make it really, really complicated. And it's just like working out and training or doing anything. You have to know the basics and the fundamentals, because I don't care what kind of fancy stuff you do later. It ain't going to work if you don't know the basics. Right? Wax on, wax off, sand the floor, paint the fence. You got to get that first before I show you a spinning back kick. That's my Karate Kid reference.
Yes.
And so, you know, you take those in, but what if I'm already so toxic with waste? So I put waste on top of waste. And the phrase they said was this: drainage precedes supply. Drainage precedes supply. So to me, that means drain the toxins first.
Get it out first.
Then you supply. Because I'm going to tell you, If you get that in the wrong order, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit a wall. It's just physiology. You can't do it. So if you flip those around and then you do the nutrient side, and that's why when I teach people a lymph reset, they go to themselves, are you kidding me? Like, first of all, that was so simple that it feels stupid that it's almost.
I was going to say that when I do my lymphatic,
you're like,
really, Tina?
So when you see me show somebody how to do this from a distance, it looks ridiculous and it's not scientific. Well, to me, that means you don't know anything about neurology or physiology, first of all, if you tell me that statement. Because it does a lot of different things. And it's not so much that you're rubbing and tapping, hang on for it. It's where you rub and tap and which order you do it in makes a difference on whether this works or not. Right? So the order that you do things makes a difference on it, how well it works or if it works. Just like I said, supply and waste.
And waste.
If you get those backwards, won't work. It's the same thing with the lymphatics. You have to do it a certain way, right? In order for you to clear what I call choke points. So fluid, so lymphatics are 90% water. Yes. 90% water. So let me ask you this. What if you're already dehydrated?
No bueno.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to struggle with lymph work.
Yeah.
It's like an Instagram post I put up this morning. If you're dehydrated and you lack minerals, no manual therapy in the world is going to get
It's going to help you.
Ain't going to happen. Oh, it'll help you feel good for a little while, but it's not going to stick or change anything long term. Trust me. It's just physiology. Because your body won't let you. Because it's too busy trying to survive. It's not going to let you thrive. Surviving and thriving are two different things. Yeah. Right? So if you can clear that waste out, then you get better nutrient absorption. Then you get your energy back. So what you do put in gets better absorption. And so when I show them this technique, they're blown away and they say a couple of things. One, that's it.
Yeah.
All I got to do is rub and slap here.
Yeah.
It takes you 60 seconds, literally 60 seconds. And then here's what they tell me next. It said, why in the hell didn't somebody show me this before if it's supposed to be so important? And then my answer is, that's a good question. Why don't you ask them that? Because it should be. And effective things don't have to be complicated at all.
When I was in, I don't know if you know my background, but I come from a rehab field, so I'm a licensed PTA. So when I was in school, we kind of just bypassed the lymphatic. It was like, oh, here's the lymphatic system. There's specialists for this. Let's move on. That's literally how we dealt with it. It's like,
it's disgraceful. Yeah. It's disgraceful. I mean, I don't remember anybody covering it in my chiropractic program because, you know, they were too busy wanting to get into the nervous system. And I'm like, the nervous system is pretty important, but the nervous system only works as well as the environment that it lives in. That's the fluid in your body called your interstitial fluid. So if you have crappy fluid that your nervous system is living in, you're not going to end up doing so well. Yeah. So then my question is, what system do you think controls how well your fluids are? Yeah. Lymphatic. So that's why, you know, my director of operations had this shirt made up that says, when in doubt, lymph it out. Lymph it out. What that means is if you're like, I don't know what's going on. I've tried everything. First of all, if you tell me that phrase, I'm already going to tell you got a lymph problem. So just try the lymph first and see what kind of a change it makes. It's going to play a role in everything. How much, I don't know. Right? Yeah. But here's just something you really need to understand about biology and physiology. The human body is a complex system, not a complicated system. They're different. Human beings like to make it complicated because it makes them feel more important to make it complicated. Yeah. But complex systems are non-linear. So this is a term from physics that basically means that if you have an input at A, it doesn't automatically give you the same output at B. That's linear. It's like a line. If I hit A, then I should expect B to happen from energy. That's linear. Right? The human body doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, medicine treats you that way. A equals B. Wrong. Yeah. Non-linear means that I can do something at A that's really small, like a tiny little thing, that can be catastrophic on the effect at the other end. Like really catastrophic. Like a small cut on your hand will kill you. That's what I mean. Like it goes to the whole body. Right?
Yeah.
And then A input doesn't equal B input. A could lead you to Z. It could lead you to the number 5. It could take you to whatever the hell it wants to do. But small can be huge. That's why people get lost. Because they don't think that something so small would be such a big deal for you. Well, if you don't sleep, you're going to die pretty fast. And you're not going to get better from anything. If you're not hydrated, nothing's going to work. If you don't have minerals, you're going to struggle to heal up. You can't get better from pain if you have low minerals. It ain't going to happen. If you have a lymph node in your body that's choked off, particularly in your abdomen, you're not going to reach the optimum place that you could reach. Like, if you feel good now, I'm going to tell you, you have no freaking idea how much better you could feel because your brain is designed to constantly establish a new normal. It's always forming a new normality. So you become used to feeling like crap because you always feel like crap. Because the alternative is not adapting to it and you'll go nuts, right? So you don't know what you don't know. And then that's why people get so used to tiredness, fatigue, lethargy, aches and pains. And then they tell you that's just a normal part of aging. Wrong. If a doctor tells you that, I'm going to tell you right now, you better drop them and get a new one.
Get a new one, okay.
Because it's BS, right? You're supposed to have energy and vitality if the body can do what it's designed to do. It knows what it needs to do. It just needs the grocery list that I call it to be able to accomplish the task that you're asking it to do.
Yes.
And let me give you my example. One of the things that will happen when you have a lymphatic system that doesn't drain well is you will develop swelling and inflammation and chronic pain somewhere. But you'll also really, really struggle to lose weight, body fat.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that when you become toxic, your body swells the container in order to diffuse the toxicity. So it makes you retain water and fluids. Even if you're drinking it, you retain it. But not inside the cell, it's outside the cell. So you become the bubble.
Yeah.
And then when it becomes overloaded, its only option now is to use fat cells to surround the toxicity. So fat cells surround toxins, right? And so when you are really, really toxic, you hold on to weight and you'll gain weight. And when you really try to lose weight, so let's think about this logically. When somebody has a lot of weight, what's the options that they typically do first?
They want to diet.
They diet, and which means for most people, they significantly restrict caloric intake.
Deficit, yeah.
Right? Which is going to change their metabolism. Or they'll go and they'll exercise every single day for 2 hours a day because they want to lose weight. And then what happens when they do that? They increase more metabolic waste from the training. So then you become more toxic. So that's the person that says, I try to train and I actually gain weight. Or if you do lose weight, you haven't fixed the system that with the lymphatic system. So then you rebound later and you gain that weight back plus more. Because the body says to itself, okay, well, I appreciate you trying to get me in shape, but I'm trying to save your life here. So guess what? I'm going to make you fat again. I'm going to make you even fatter. Right? Because what it's trying to do is save your life. And sometimes it does that by making you stop. Right? And when you get depressed and you feel ashamed of your body, you stop. You follow? Yeah. So I need you to understand why your body may be doing some things and the pathways that it takes. It's not doing it to punish you. It's not doing it to make your life miserable. It has one job, and happiness is not its job. Its job is to make sure that you don't die right now.
Yes, to stay alive.
And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make that happen, and I don't care if it makes sense to you or not, because maybe one day you'll catch up, and I don't care if you do, because at least you won't be dead.
Yeah.
You follow? So you need to always keep in mind that the body never does anything without a reason, even if you don't know what it is, and it never does anything by accident. It maybe just doesn't know it has options to choose from anymore. Because when your body uses a strategy to save itself and it worked out for you, it will continue using it.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad. The brain doesn't think in terms of good and bad, right or wrong. It only thinks in, was it useful for me to not die today, or was it not useful?
Yeah. And if it was useful, I'm going to do it again.
Exactly. Until you show it options, right? Because all of these strategies that your body does were useful for it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But it may no longer be useful for you. But it needs to know options. That's what change is. Doing something different. And that's what pain is. Pain is a request for change. Pain is trying to give you options to explore to not have pain. Mm-hmm. You understand? So when I started to do lymphatics, I've been bodybuilding and weight training and doing fitness since I was 14 years old, and I'm 54 years old. I've probably forgotten more than most people know. And I know how to get a body ripped and shredded in every kind of training variation you can think of. And I could not lose weight when I was not feeling well and when I was inflamed. And I was probably inflamed for about 10 years before I really got sick. And it just was not coming off and not coming off and not coming off. And I look back at some old pictures and I'm like, oh my goodness, I looked really puffy, swollen, and unhealthy. Mm-hmm. When I did my lymphatics for the first time, I lost 30 pounds of body fat, swelling, and inflammation in 1 month.
Wow.
What was the difference? It wasn't the magical diet that I started. It wasn't the HIT program that I started, because I've been doing all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What it was is I just went supply side, waste side, and I flipped them around.
Yeah.
And then it was just within 3 days, I felt like a different human being. The one thing that scared me the most when I was sick was not my physical pain. Oh, that sucks. Don't get me wrong. But I started to lose cognitive ability in my head. I had so much inflammation throughout the system that I started to be so tired, fatigued, lethargic. I couldn't remember names anymore. I couldn't treat patients anymore. I couldn't teach anymore. I was actually showing early signs of Alzheimer's and dementia because of so much waste products in my brain.
Oh my God.
And that's what got me into what I'm teaching right now, and why I teach the lymphatic system, and why I teach how to get toxins specifically removed from the brain, because you have to do both together. And when I got my brain back, I got my neuroplasticity back. That's the ability for you to form new wiring and firing patterns and pick different ways to get from point A to point B. And that was the transformation for me, because nothing is more terrifying than losing this.
Yeah.
And then when you ultimately look at neuroscience, this is the master controller of what?
Everything.
Everything, including pain.
Yeah.
Pain gets processed in the brain, not the tissue. So if you have brain inflammation from a poorly functioning lymphatic system, your perception of pain significantly changes. And what would cause pain for you might not normally cause it, because of so much inflammation that you have in through here. You lose the context of pain because of the environment that your neurons and your cells are living in. And they discovered within the last 10 years, maybe 20, somewhere in that ballpark, because they used to not think that the brain had its own toxin waste management drainage system. Yeah. They thought it was an immune privileged organ. First of all, I mean, think about that. That's just plain old stupid, right?
It's a privilege. Yeah, only a selected few.
The most important organ and complicated organ in the universe is not going to find some way to drain toxins from itself. Here's the thing. It's always been there. We just didn't see it yet, right? So if you lose the ability to drain that here, it changes everything below it. So once again, it comes back to lymphatics. Now, here's an important note, that every therapy, every technique that somebody gets that's non-lymphatic works for someone. And they all have value for a person depending on if it's the right time for that person and the right order, and if are they ready to accept what you're trying to do for them, because they just might not be ready yet.
Yeah.
But here's what I contend: all of those other therapies will work better if I clear the lymph first, because the lymph is the foundation for physiology to work.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing whatever technique I like, you always do some lymph work prior to that technique. And what you'll notice is a significant change in your outcome. Even training. Like I have people, you know, when you go train and you do warm-ups, right? I know you use stick mobility a lot, and I love those guys. They're good friends of mine. And it's freaking awesome because it can give you stability and put you in a lot of different positions and help you control tension. And that's important because tight tissue doesn't accept fluid flow well. But what I tell people is that you do a little bit of lymphatic work before you do your other warm-ups. And then you train. And then you tell me how you feel. And I already know what you're going to tell me. Where you been all my life, Doc? That's crazy. Right? And then you do it afterwards too. Why? Because when you train, you get waste. And the faster I can get the waste out, the faster I can recover, the more optimally I can recover, which means I can get back to training sooner, or I can train more than my competition. So I can put more work in than you. And that means I'm going to get gold and you're not. That's what that means. Or I'm going to be able to do what gives me joy in my life, which might be running, right? Which might be playing with my children. But I know this much: if you do the lymphatic work, you can notice a significant difference in your energy level, your tiredness, your fatigue, your durability level, your recovery, and also physical pain in the body. Now, because if you need to do lymphatics and you're not currently doing lymphatics on purpose, and I'm going to clarify that in a moment, I'm going to contend that you're really going to struggle to get where you could be a lot sooner. Because two things move the lymphatic fluid in your body. Do I still have a few moments to go?
Yes, you got it. You got it.
Okay. So human movement moves lymph.
Yes.
Muscular contraction moves lymph. So the more you move more of yourself, more often, more ways, more environments is important. Okay. Now you have to, this is really important for context. A lot of people don't move enough, right? Which means they become stagnant. But you also have to be careful that you don't do the same kind of movements all the time either, because that can also back up your lymph, because tissues react to lines of stress. So when you do the same type of stress all the time, it's like a callus on a hand, tissue changes. It gets tight. So if I do the same training all the time, tissues adapt to that, and that changes how fluids circulate. And then you're also going to clog up because you're sending too much fluid to one place all the time, not to another. So you need variation, variability, and variety. That's why I like this stick mobility, because you can get stability and move into positions you would never feel safe and comfortable to get into on your own.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? So you need movement. That's why people say, what's the best thing for my lymph? Well, walking and jumping up and down on the balls of your feet is a great start, because your calves are a built-in rebounder. Okay? And then the other thing that moves lymph is breathing through the diaphragm, the muscle down in your rib cage and in your abdomen, because that increases pressure where? In your abdomen.
In your gut. Yeah.
In your gut, and it pumps what? My immune system. It pumps the lymphatics that usually get stuck there. So if you can move more and learn to breathe more through your diaphragm, just those two things, you can make a big difference on the lymphatics. And then, but here's what people say to me who still have lymphatic system issues. They say, Doc, I move all the time and I breathe all the time, but my lymph system is still a mess. And I'm like, okay, let's think about this logically. Why do you think that might be? Because those things are supposed to move your lymph. What happens if your lymph is already backed up?
Yeah.
That means you can't, that's no longer enough to move it on its own. That's like when you flush the toilet, it's supposed to have enough pressure to move the waste. But when it's blocked, flushing the toilet doesn't work anymore. You have to do what?
You got to plunge it manually.
Plunge it.
Yeah.
Well, here's my plunger.
Yeah.
And I go on those choke points to free it up. And then that can make all the difference in the world. And then you breathe. And then you rebound. And then you move. And you should do lymphatic work every single day of your life.
Yeah.
Every day. All right. So people are always working the lymphatics. They just didn't know they were actually working lymphatics because most people are like, what the hell's a lymphatic? Right? Yeah. So they're just doing so. So you're stimulating the system.
Yeah.
But now I want you to do it with purpose. I
Yep.
want you to do it with intent. That means knowing where to go and how to do it and when to do it. And you mix that with just everyday life, then it can be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, big, super big.
It'll make
That makes sense?
No, it makes absolute sense. Like I said, you explained it better than I ever could.
Yeah. So I saw on there that what are some signs of a good, healthy, moving lymphatic system?
Yes.
Well, you don't feel like crap. You don't feel tired, fatigued, lethargic, sick, sore all the time, and you don't have all these lists of multiple disease names or chronic pain. So well-functioning lymph means that I feel healthy, I feel energy, I feel vitality, I feel like I want to seize the day. I'm sharp up here. I'm resilient. I'm strong mentally and physically. If you don't have a good lymphatic system problem, throw in any diagnosis you want after it. It's probably going to be tied to it.
But also when you do get your lymphatic drained or you have somebody work on it, sometimes you can have a detox effect and feel shitty the next day, like you got hit by a truck.
Yeah, and that's normal.
Yeah, I've had that before. They didn't explain it to us when I took the class, but when I started doing it on a couple of my clients, they were calling me saying, oh my God, the next day I had a huge headache and I felt like crap. And I was like, is this normal? I didn't know because they didn't tell me that that was a side effect, like that was going to be. And I was like, I just worked on somebody and they're telling me, and oh, that's normal. I'm like, well, you should have told us in class because now I thought I did something wrong. And this person has a headache and feels nauseous and feels like crap. And I was like, okay, I did a good job then.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I'm glad you brought that up because it's really important to communicate with your clients when you do lymphatic to say, listen, you're probably going to feel way worse before you feel better. And guess what? That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
what we want, right? Because you want that stuff out of you. You don't want it in there. But your body has to be able to tolerate it and deal with it. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing with lymphatic work. And it's the same thing with training. More isn't better, better is better. You have to tiptoe in easy. It's like if you went to work out for 3 hours the first day and you never worked out before, you wouldn't be able to walk the next day.
Yeah.
If you do too much lymphatic work because you get overzealous, you can overload your system with toxins and the system is not able. How do I know it can't handle it? Because you got a lymph problem. I already know you can't handle it. So you got to go easy. So you can make somebody feel worse for sure, but you also prolong the healing process because now your body has to heal from what you just did to it.
Yeah.
Because anything that you do positive to the body as a therapy is also a stressor to the body. And the more stress that you're under, and if you get overloaded, the less stress you can tolerate. So it hits a barrier where you can maintain a lot of stress, and I'm really super strong. But if I keep pushing you with incessant chronic stress and you can't rest and recover, your tolerance level to stress decreases. So it takes less to set you off. Yeah. And then that's why it's very important for people watching to understand this. That's why a lot of people don't get well with therapies because people are doing too many therapies at once.
Yeah.
And they're doing too much of them at once, thinking that more is better. Wrong. It's the exact opposite when it comes to chronic pain, toxicity, and brain inflammation. Inflamed brains hit a wall within minutes. Like sometimes I can only do literally 2 minutes of movement or brain work with somebody and I have to stop because they just get tired and fatigued and lethargic. And then this is important. Because when it hits that point, you turn off learning and you turn on surviving.
That fight or flight. You just, yeah.
So your brain won't allow you to learn new behaviors. It defaults to the ones you're trying to change. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So just because I'm going to curse here, just because you kicked my ass for an hour, it doesn't mean you did me any favors.
Got it.
Right? So that's really, really important, because the threshold for tolerance should expand, but it decreases the more you're getting hit with it.
You got to find that sweet spot.
So that's big, because I have a lot of people coming in to see me and they're doing really wonderful things, but they hit a wall. And I'm like, well, tell me what you're doing. Well, I'm taking 25 different supplements. Well, first of all, stop. But not all at once. You got to taper them off, because why? That's a supply side, which is great, but your liver has to deal with all that crap.
Yeah.
And the majority of your lymph has to come from your liver, up to 50% of it. So if you have a liver that's overburdened, you will increase lymphatic production 4 to 10 times above normal. And then what happens if the choke points don't work?
You're toxic, you blow.
And then you're just going to keep taking more and more and more and more and more, and then you spend thousands of dollars and you get frustrated, and sometimes you feel worse.
Yeah.
And all I tell them is this: flip it around.
Yeah.
Flip it around. Right? So when I started to study physiology and how ecosystems work, that a body is an ecosystem. All the systems work together. They don't work alone. And when you have a problem with one, all the other ones have got your back and they're trying to help you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in nature. Nothing works alone out there. And with those type of systems, the order that you try to do things to people makes a huge difference on how well things work. Here's one of my favorite analogies. When I think of rehab and training as you put a plan together, right? A plan is like a recipe. Mm-hmm. If you have a cake that you want to make, or a special recipe, and you've got your card, you have all your ingredients, right? You put them in there. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you normally don't do when you have a recipe? You don't take all the ingredients and throw them in one big bowl and mix it up. Why? Because your recipe is going to suck. That's why. Yeah. But all the ingredients are there. You follow?
Yes.
But what do they tell you to do? They tell you take these three
and put them
mix them in a bowl and put them over here. And then take these two and mix them here. And then now add this bowl to that bowl.
Yes.
And if you think logically, you're like, why would I do that? It's the same ingredients. No, it's not. Because how these three interact with each other changes how they interact with the other two. That's physiology. That's what you really, really need to understand. So if you're going to do that for a freaking cake, why wouldn't you do that for your own body?
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolute sense.
And to me, I say, if you want to make a cake, you can't make a cake without cake mix. Right?
Yep.
Well, lymph is the cake mix.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at the body, and that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because I can tell you right now, I would not be alive if I did not find lymph. But once I grab onto something, especially when it saved my life, and then I started to do the things that I learned to other people, and they started to get the same results. And that's when I said to myself, I can't keep this to myself. I'm going to just teach it to everybody, and I'm going to this is my calling.
Yes.
I saw a quote once that said, allow your wounds to become your calling. This is it.
That's amazing.
So, but what I wanted to do was, I don't like the term better. I like the term different. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to try to make a program that was different, because all lymph programs work. And I've studied a lot. But I've also combined Eastern medicine and Western medicine.
I love that.
Emotion-based medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and neuroscience and pain science. All of those things I've mixed in my learning process over the last 25 years to try to make a system that when I teach it to you and explain it to you, all of those make sense together. And why when you rub here, I want you to know you're doing so much more than you ever thought possible from something so simple. Because all of those disciplines are trying to accomplish the same thing, which is helping another human being become empowered and not suffer so much.
Yes.
Okay? And so I just try to put it in a language where people can choose whatever one they want. Mm-hmm. Right. And I get kind of choked up on this one because it's really, really been powerful. It's changed the course of my life in many, many different ways, because I don't think you're going to find your life calling through comfort. You're only going to find your life calling when you're getting your ass kicked. When you're beaten down. Suffering has a way of showing you things that you would have never looked at before, because why would you? You're really, really comfortable.
Yeah.
So people that are watching right now and you've hit rock bottom and you feel like giving up, first of all, the universe won't put you there unless it knows you're on a purpose to find it. That means you're on the right path, honestly. And then you keep going, and this might be a nice big piece for you. Maybe just some of the stuff that we framed for you today, because change comes from empowerment. And if you go back and you ask your clinician about lymphatics, see if they even know about it. They might not, but you can. So people ask me, can I take your courses? Can I study your work? I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm like, you don't have to be. All you have to be is a human being that wants to learn and wants to feel better, because everybody can do this work. You don't have to be a healthcare professional to take care of your own damn body, for goodness sakes.
I love that about you.
You know, you just make it simple. And a lot of times people get stress and anxiety about language. So this is something big for me. So that, when you throw around like lymph node or brachial plexus or cerebellum, people are like,
yeah, what's that? Yeah.
I don't think about it. I said, listen, the names don't mean squat. Nothing, right? I want you to think of your cerebellum as an apple. And I want you to think of your brachial plexus as an avocado. I don't care what you call it, but I want you to understand how the avocado and the apple talk to each other. If you can tell me that, you can call them whatever the hell you want. Yeah. Right? So the words don't matter. It's the concepts that matter. Because don't let medicine intimidate you like that, because nobody should be more concerned about your own health than you. And it's just like anything else. When I talk to a mechanic and they're telling me about this node and this panel board, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know. It's just the language that you change. And if you can just change that, you can become more empowered to take care of yourself, because effective things don't have to be complicated. I said that before.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's kind of the end of my sermon right there, because I get a little bit. So basically anybody can learn this work.
Anybody can do it.
And you can absolutely do it to yourself.
Yes. Can you tell them?
If you can't do it to another person because you physically can't touch clients, depending on what your discipline is.
Yeah.
You can do what I did for you. I showed you how to do it to yourself. Now you show them how to do it to themselves. Yeah.
Can you tell them where they can find your course? And because a lot of people are asking, they're like, how do we reset it? How do we? So can you tell them where they can find you?
Well, if you go to stopchasingpain.com, that's kind of my central hub for everything. And of course, I'm on Instagram under Stop Chasing Pain. And then the link there will take you to my site. And then Instagram is probably where I spend most of my time for education and sharing. So if you follow me there, you'll get a lot. But we have a couple of options for lymphatics. I have a self-help video that you can purchase and stream for life through Vimeo, the format. And it'll show you the basics and the fundamentals and explain the system and show you what to do by hand and with brushing. I'll show you how to do it with a toothbrush, actually. And you can start there. And then we have a more intensive course that's a 2-day course. It's about 16 hours long. And we go over what you saw in the video, plus a lot more in-depth to the deeper lymphatics and for people that are suffering from a lot of issues. And that is called Lymphatic Mojo Body Aquarium. Mojo means magic. That's why I chose that word. And we usually have those every 6 to 8 weeks. We don't have one posted up yet. If you go to the site, there will be one coming in November because they sell out really fast. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get an announcement when it comes, and then you can get like early registration. And then anybody who's a part of our membership site, I have an exclusive membership site called GoPro. If you join that, you get notifications as well as discounts. But that's, if you go through my Instagram feed too, I've got a lot on lymph in the past that you can look at and explore. I looked at my Instagram feed, I'm like, holy cow, man, I have 8,000 posts. I'm like, I got to get out a little more. But you know, I just love doing it so much that I post stuff up that I find quite interesting, and hopefully you guys enjoy it too.
I repost your stuff all the time. I put it in my stories like every day.
Well, I do see that, and here's the thing: when people message me through Instagram, I'm the one who's replying to you. Nobody does my interactions with people.
Oh, okay.
So there's no bot. There's no staff that does my post. There's no one that does the messages. I do, because I love to do it. Because it helps me communicate and talk with people and learn what they like, or things that I can maybe say differently for people. But I really just want to say a thank you to you for a couple of things. One, for inviting me on to be part of the Instagram Live. I always love doing these, and hopefully people watching enjoyed it. But also, thank you for being you and for doing the things that you do and the stuff that you teach, because it makes a big difference in the world. And I, too, follow you.
Oh, so. Well, thank you. That's an honor, because, I mean, you're amazing. Just this whole hour, I'm like, I think you really... I'm big on not using medical terminology too. Like, my whole page is for the people, so people understand and they can feel empowered and learn how to take care of themselves. So I don't like using big words and all this. It's like that. It doesn't matter. Like, when people come, just show me where it hurts. You don't have to give me the name of the muscle and the tendon. Just point to where it hurts and we'll figure it out. But I love that about you. And you know what else attracted me to you is because my father does Tai Chi, and my family, we come from a martial arts background. So when you had primal movements and I was like watching some, I'm like, this guy gets it. Like, I know where this is stemming from. So you hold a place in my heart. I've been following you for a while, and I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. Well, here's the interesting thing. I love Eastern medicine, and I love Eastern philosophy. And I've been practicing martial arts since I was like 16. And I gravitated more towards what they call the internal martial arts with Tai Chi and Qigong, and Agua. And I just love that because it got me into, I was never able to meditate just by sitting. I meditate through purposeful movement with those, and to catch me with my breathing and getting into I get into a flow state where I lose the world when I get into there, and it's such a calming mentally, but also physically. And because of the movements, and you're getting into positions you normally don't get in with tightness and stiffness when training, that my lymph flow began to move, but my mental flow began to go. And then you call it your energy, your Tai Chi, whatever you want to call it. And human movement is designed to be in circles and spirals and rotations, and moves like fluid, right? Fluid doesn't move in a straight line. It's all over the place with each other. And that's why a lot of the techniques that I teach people, and listen, they've been teaching slapping and tapping techniques in Eastern medicine for a couple thousand years.
Yep.
So I thought to myself, maybe that works.
Yeah, maybe there's something to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but here's the thing. Now, when you look at science, it all makes sense of why it works, especially the capability now that they can see things in real time, particularly in the brain with some, functional MRIs at the same time, what they can visualize that we thought was happening. And we're like, oh my God, we got it totally wrong. It's something else happening in there.
I knew there was something to it because my dad had gotten shoulder surgery years ago, and one of his things he would do every day for an hour was Tai Chi. And even if it was small circles, he would still go through the motions and then work the circles bigger until he was able to do it. And he would do it like an hour every day. So when he went back, when he would go for rehab, they're like, this is like the fastest shoulder recovery we've seen in a long time. And he was like, it's the Tai Chi. Like he told the doctor, he's like, it's the Chi. I sit there, I go home after I leave here, but I go in my basement for an hour and so I knew that there was something to that, because he's like, Tina, it's just something harnessing your energy, learning how to heal yourself from the inside out, and just the movements don't have to be hard or big. It's small and basic until you're able to get into the space that you need to get to. So that was one of the things that opened my eyes to that too. So when I saw your work, I'm like, oh, here it is. It's someone else who gets it. But you do amazing things. I actually referred a couple of people to you as well. So I know, I think at least one of them went, but I hope.
They went to see me in person?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Because a lot of people ask, do I see clients? And yeah, I do. I'm in New Jersey, near New York City.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I have so many other questions, but we don't have enough time for that. I want to get into the visceral stuff. I actually purchased the Visceral Mojo too.
Oh, so you got the Visceral Mojo program?
I did. I've been watching it. And
organ work is so powerful, you know. Yep. I mean, I got into that too a little bit later, because I never really paid much attention to the organs until I started to study lymph. But once again, the organs tie into the Eastern medicine, because the organs harness different emotions and different energy. Yeah. Let me know how you like that video. It's a lot of hands-on in there.
It is a lot of hands-on.
The umbrella reset that I teach, the umbrella reset will change your life.
Okay.
Yeah. Without question. That'll blow your mind up, that one.
Oh, I think I got into the throat one. That's the one where I'm
the throat is really neglected too.
Yeah.
Highly emotional point there with the heart chakra.
And it makes sense, because my mom, she would suffer from cystic acne, but she would always tell me, like, every time that happened, her lymph nodes would get swollen. She's like, I know there's something going on, because every time these get swollen, I get like a cyst, something in my face. There's like there's a bacteria or an infection going on, she would say. So a lot of what you're saying makes sense, and it hits home.
Yeah. Well, it's always great when it makes sense.
Yeah.
So check the wind box there.
Yes. All right. So I have a client, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
So much. Hopefully we can do this again. Yes, I'm going to save it, guys. I will post it on my page so you guys can refer back to it. And if you have any questions or you want to see Dr. Perry in person, please reach out if you feel to do so. So thank you so much, Dr. Perry.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.